What's up everyone, welcome back, and today I want to give you some tips for super sharp 35mm film photos. Now I know a lot of photographers want to jump straight into medium format because they don't like the quality of 35mm. Sometimes 35mm is looked at as a low quality amateur format, and sometimes I would agree with that, but other times I disagree. I think there's a lot of things you can do before jumping into medium format to optimize the quality of 35mm. So my first tip is not shooting wide open. And by wide open, I'm talking about your aperture. When I shot my first roll of film, I shot every image at f1.8. So amateur mistake, and so most of my shots were out of focus and lacked any quality and any sharpness. But the moment I stopped my lens down, I started getting better results out of my 35mm camera. And so I'm definitely not saying never shoot wide open. But I will say the quality and the detail and the sharpness of my images came alive when I started shooting at least 2 to 3 stops away from my widest aperture.
So let's look at this photo as an example. The one on the left is shot at f1.8 and the one on the right is shot at f4. And in the f4 image, you're going to notice right away there's more things in focus, and that's because it has a larger depth of field. And that's not what I'm here to talk about. What I want to know is, what is the sharpness difference between the critical focus on both of these images, the point at which I placed focus on my camera? And that point is the van. So let's zoom into the van. Okay, Lightroom. Let's zoom into the van. And you can tell right away, there's a huge difference in sharpness between the f1.8 and the f4. This right here is the point of which I put focus on both these images, and you can tell everything from the license plate, the Ford logo, in comparison to this image, it is dramatically sharper.
And to all my blurry background people out there, what if I told you could still stop down your aperture and get insanely shallow depth of field? You might call me a liar, but you can, and it's pretty simple. Just use a longer focal length. So right here is a 135mm 2.8. I rarely shoot it at 2.8. I shoot it more at f4 or f8. And what it will do is it actually compresses the background, and I still get those blurry backgrounds but sharp images. Also, on the topic of sharpness, I have a few other tips for your 35mm negatives. So this one's quite simple, and it's just adding sharpening in post. Now some of you guys might be against this, but sometimes it's really needed, especially when you're scanning your negatives at home. I really feel like it gives your photos a little bit more dimension and depth, and will bring out the grain in your images. Let's look at an example of this. So I just opened up Adobe Lightroom Classic, so let's have a look at this sample image to see what it looks like with or without sharpening. So this is without sharpening. Now I must say, I love this photo without sharpening. I really love this photo. But we're gonna add sharpening to it, so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. And I don't think this needs a lot, so I'm just gonna do a slight bit. Okay, that's 20%. Let's do just a slight more. 28%. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Now it's at 29. I'm going to bring it back down to 0. You see how slight that difference is, but I'm going to bring it back to 29. And I want you to see that I think that when you add a little bit more sharpening, it gives your image a bit more depth. Right now at 0 sharpening, she's kind of just blending in with the background. But if you really want to bring more depth and have her pop out, you can add more sharpening and that will help with that. So 29. See what I mean? It's a slight difference, but I think it will be well worth your while to just give it a shot. So for my third tip, whether you're scanning your film at home or at a lab, try scanning your images at a higher resolution. You might just be working with low quality scans, which will take away lots of detail and sharpness from your images. So my fourth tip is a cheesy saying amongst pro photographers that the sharpest lens in your bag is a tripod, which I will say is a bit debatable, but there's definitely some truth to it. If you really want to go the extra mile, taking a tripod and a cable release with you will help the sharpness of your image. And removing any camera shake will definitely improve your shots. So my fifth reason you might not be getting very sharp images out of your film camera is that your lens might actually have fungus in it. I know it sounds kind of weird, but since some film cameras have been sitting around for years, fungus can grow on the inside of the lens. And to find out, all you need to do is take your lens and put it up to the light, and it should be crystal clear. If you see any kind of haze, or I don't know, it's kind of like spider webs looking things, it probably has fungus in it. And the best thing to do is to take it in to your local camera shop for a CLA. Now, I actually take my lenses apart myself and clean them, but if you don't have any experience with that kind of thing, I would not recommend it. Take it to your local camera shop and get a CLA. So my last piece of advice is just invest in quality glass, and that does not mean it has to be very expensive. Just do your research. Definitely ask your friends what their favorite lenses are. And if you're gonna just buy a lens online, definitely look at sample images taken on the lens before you buy it. That's it for me. If you have any questions, leave them down below. I answer all of them. Also, like and subscribe, and if you haven't already, follow me on Instagram at morethanyoucaretosee. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you very soon. Bye bye.